Our friend Barrett Sallee of CBS Sports had an interesting tweet earlier this week discussing the health of the Tennessee Athletics program compared to the rest of the SEC. We dove a little bit into it earlier this week. We're going to expand on that here today. Plus, results and thoughts from what I saw at Tennessee's Pro Day. All that and more coming up here on a Thursday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into this episode of Locked On Vols, your team, the Tennessee Volunteers, every single day. Glad to have you guys along for the ride. I am Eric Kane, your host, and I do radio in Knoxville, Tennessee at 99.1 The Sports Animal. That's flagship station for the University of Tennessee, right for the rival side, covering the Tennessee Volunteers football, basketball, baseball now, recruiting, of course. That is volquest.com. And, of course, I'm the host of this podcast. Thanks so much for making this show, Locked On Vols, your first podcast listen each and every day, and for watching it on YouTube. Really, really do appreciate it. And this episode today is brought to you by BetOnline. It's got you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. So, want to dive in more to what Barrett Sallee was talking about on his Twitter account, on his Instagram accounts earlier this week. This was just a couple of days ago, and I think we mentioned it a little bit in maybe the Twitter Tuesday episode, maybe with Josh. I can't really remember, but I do want to dive into it just a little bit more, okay? Tennessee is number one in Baseball America's Top 25. I don't follow that poll. I follow, as I grab my sheet here, I follow D1 Baseball, but nonetheless, it is all major polls. Tennessee Baseball is number one. It won the SEC men's basketball tournament and has more football momentum than any team in the SEC East not named Georgia. Of course, Georgia just won a national championship. I'm old enough to remember when the entire athletic department was a laughingstock. It isn't anymore. That's Barrett Sallee from just a couple of days ago this week. Now, of course, we're all old enough to remember Tennessee being a laughingstock of the SEC. Do you remember 2017? Do you remember 2020, or 2021, I guess? It was not that long ago. 2 times in the past 6 years, twice within the last, 5 years. Tennessee Athletics has overhauled its football program and the athletic director position in the same coaching search. It's been just wild. The way the Butch Jones situation ended, that coaching search fiasco that was just, oh my gosh, if you weren't a Tennessee fan, you were loving every minute of it. If you were a Tennessee fan, you were hanging on for dear life. And if you were part of the media trying to cover that whole ordeal, gosh, it was such a roller coaster, right? You know, one coach uses Tennessee to get a raise. Another coach uses Tennessee to get a raise. Jeff Brom, that was going to be Tennessee's head coach. It was going to happen. And then there was a slip up there concerning the buyouts. You had John Curry that flew across the country to go and hire Mike Leach and wasn't returning anybody's calls from home, and ultimately he was fired and told to come back home. Then you bring in Philip Fulmer, who a lot of people said kind of stirred the coup a little bit behind the scenes and kind of started this whole thing, a Game of Thrones style. Hire him as the athletics director, go on, hire Jeremy Pruitt, and then, you go on for the next 3 years, and it's very underwhelming. There were some high points in 2019, but it is what it is. He did knock off 2 ranked teams in his first year, yada, 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 but it ended poorly, okay? He was fired for cause, impermissible benefits and all that. We know the story. And then the situation happens again. Jeremy Pruitt's fired for cause. Philip Fulmer steps down because he, publicly says he doesn't want to hire a new football coach because it needs to be a pairing with the AD for the next 10 years. And he doesn't want to do this for the next 10 years. So he steps down. Tennessee goes out and hires Danny White, who brings in Josh Heupel from UCF. And now here we are today. After a successful year number 1 that had a lot of positives, Josh Heupel and company are looking for even more success in year number 2. So, all that, the McDonald's bags, the recruiting impermissible benefits, the coaching search fiascos, the AD coaching search fiascos. I mean, keep in mind, what happened at Auburn this past offseason? We're all just sitting there laughing like, oh, yeah, been there, done that. We've seen that. Again, it's kind of fun from the outside, but if you're in it, it's brutal. And so, again, twice that has happened in the last 5 years. It's just wild to even think about. Tennessee is absolutely the laughingstock of college athletics, and certainly the laughingstock of the SEC quite a few times, for sure, especially over the last 15 years. Things seem to be kind of on the up and up, though, right now, okay? Look at Tennessee's perspective. Football, as Barrett Sallee mentioned, probably has more momentum in the SEC East, not named Georgia, than any other team, right? Georgia won the national championship. I hear you there. It's hard to compete with that right now. Florida, new coach. Sure, there's momentum. Billy Napier, people are excited, but new coaches fired Dan Mullen. All right. You go on. You got Missouri that was very underwhelming last year. Recruiting well right now with Eli Drinkwitz, but all the momentum that it was building, I think, kind of stalled after a mediocre season in 2021. And ultimately, the quarterback, Connor Bazelak, and your All-American Tyler Beatty at running back have left the program. Of course, Beatty graduated. He's going on to the NFL. You got Kentucky that is very, very stable with Mark Stoops. It's a solid program in the SEC right now. Anybody that says, I know some of you guys don't want to hear this, but anybody that says Kentucky is not a solid program and a team willing to knock off anybody in the SEC right now, you're fooling yourselves. That's where Kentucky is right now. Is it a national contender? Absolutely not. But it is a solid football team that can beat anybody in the SEC, in my opinion, right now. That's what Mark Stoops has built, the stability in that program. South Carolina's got a whole lot of momentum right now. I hear you. A lot of transfers, recruiting well for Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer very much overachieved in year one. You guys know me. I gave him 4 games. I said 4 games is all he would win this year. He certainly showed me, right? Shows how much I know. So I hear you there. Vanderbilt, yeah, it is. I'm not even going to discuss that. So am I leaving anybody out now? I did Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Kentucky, Florida, Missouri. I'm leaving one other one. Anyway, you guys are all screaming right now. I get that. But this is what happens when you work on the fly, right? So Tennessee's got so much momentum right now. And I truly do believe this is going to bug me now. Gosh, did I get everybody? Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Oh, that's everybody. I did everybody. Okay, there we go. But Tennessee's got a whole lot of momentum going on right now in football, seeing what Hendon Hooker can do in year number 2, seeing what Josh Heupel's offense can do in year number 2. You got some, there's some question marks there, yada, yada. We talk about that all the time. Men's basketball, of course, the early exits in the NCAA tournament, it's frustrating. I don't know how to qualify it. I mean, Rick Barnes is a good coach. He is not a good tournament coach. He's been to 3 Elite Eights. He's been to 1 Final Four. That was a long time ago. I hear you. That was at Texas. Rick Barnes has, I think I saw a stat the other day, and I want to double check it, so I'm not going to say it right now because that would be inconsiderate of me, but I saw a stat that was mind-blowing regarding Rick Barnes in the NCAA tournament. I just don't get it. I don't, because he has coached. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach. What he's done at 3 different programs, winning 3 different regular season conference championships, tournament championships, Providence, Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, what he's done throughout his career, it's incredible. We know, and you guys have heard me say Tennessee will be in a position to win a national championship every single year that Rick Barnes is head coach at Tennessee. I truly believe that. But I know it's frustrating getting knocked out in the first weekend of the tournament. I get it. You would want the season to end differently. I get it. But you just did something you hadn't done in 42 years. You've won the regular season you won the regular season championship very recently here with Rick Barnes. He's turning out NBA talent. He's recruiting at a high level. So there's basketball in a good spot. Lady Vols, I think the Lady Vols is in a good spot right now, being able to get to the Sweet 16, being able to be, I believe, the 3 seed in the SEC this year, despite everything going on with Kelly Harper. I think that's kind of impressive. I do believe that the Sweet 16 should be the standard, should not be celebrated, but this year I'm going to celebrate it. There's just what I'm going to do. Baseball, enough said, number 1 team in the country. Softball, top 20 team in the country, still contending. Lost a little luster from where it used to be. I understand that, but it's still, not to be messed with. Track and field, swimming, tennis. I mean, all those non-revenue sports, they are soccer. I mean, you look at any sport on campus. It's thriving right now for the most part. It truly is. So from the health standpoint of the athletic departments, you're in a great spot. Danny White didn't hire all these coaches. Some of the, Dave Hart hired some of these coaches forever ago, right? I mean, it's not all Danny White's doings here, but it's a credit to Tennessee for kind of the health and the strength of the program overall. The athletic departments, you're in a really, really good spot. Plus, Tennessee's doing tons of renovations in the Neyland Stadium right now. The Anderson Athletic Facility, the baseball stadium's about to get a facelift. Things are happening right now. So that's on Tennessee's side. We're going to take that and we're going to look at what's happening around the rest of the SEC. And keep in mind, I cover Tennessee. I do not know the nitty gritty of what's going on the plains or in the swamp or in Columbia, Missouri, or South Carolina. I'm not going to pretend like I know that, but just from the overall health of the athletic departments, we're going to go through. I'm going to tell you my tiers and where does Tennessee stack up with those tiers? Which athletic department would you maybe say, okay, I might trade places with that right now? Tennessee's in a good spot. I mean, it truly is. Needs to continue to get better, needs to finish basketball seasons, needs to take another step in football, because football drives the ship. It's the cash cow. We know that. Needs to win games in Omaha. Needs to get back to the College World Series in softball. Needs to make the standard being a Sweet 16 appearance every single year and then some for Lady Vol basketball. I get all that, but it's in a good spot right now. We'll continue to dive a little bit more into this here in just a moment on Locked On Vols. Athletic Greens, okay? A1G, something I use a lot right now because, I didn't have time. Wanted better health, more energy, optimize my immune system. Hated taking pills, hated taking vitamins. Wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. Wanted to see what all that hype was about. It's optional green. AG1 is what we call it, okay? What is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and just great stuff for you, the way you start your day off right. A special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recover, focus, and aging. All those things. Everybody wants to stay young, right? AG1, you need to check it out. Why do you personally consume it? Why do you take it? Well, for me, again, I work like 100 hours a week. I'm not kidding. Maybe not 100, but it is well more than 40. I will tell you that. It's probably 60 if we're being completely honest. I want to look young. I want to keep this face looking fresh, right? I used to be cute. I don't know if I'm cute anymore. I'm going to start taking AG1 and figure it out, right? And I would encourage you guys to do that as well. So if you want more information on AG1, it's just great for your immune system. And if you don't like the vitamins and the minerals and all that type of stuff, try AG1. I encourage you to do that. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/college. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/college to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance that is AG1. Try it out today. And of course, we're talking about Stat Hero here on Locked On Vols. I love and hate those buzzer beaters, the drama, but oh, the pain when you're on that other side of the bracket, right? That's what happened in some of these games in the NCAA tournaments, this tournament in the history, and you needed something else to happen, right? But Stat Hero's NCAA single game pick'ems pits the star players against each other in an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. Take control back from those handicappers that always seem to have the advantage. Start focusing on the players that you know the best with a gameplay that doesn't rely on those big spreads, those long odds, those funky props. In addition to their pick'ems, they also have dozens of lineups where you can comb through and take on head-to-head. They simply post sets of players for you to take on with the set of players that you choose. Stat Hero is the easiest and fastest way to get your sports action fix on. This is what daily fantasy was meant to be. So right now, for free, go to stathero.com/lockedon for 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon. Promo code locked on for a 100% deposit match. Terms and conditions do apply. Locked On Vols, your Thursday edition. I am Eric Kane, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Hey, real quick sidebar. I just want to make mention real quick. A lot of you guys dive in the DMs, try to talk to me. Instagram DMs, Facebook DMs. I love that. I love that. If I don't get back to you, it's nothing. It's nothing against you. It's just that I'm really, really busy. But I do feel like I get back to pretty much everybody. But again, if I'm not getting back to you, I do apologize. I love the engagements, the conversations we have. I love the participation on Twitter Tuesdays, guys. It's fun. It's a family. It's a community. So I had a couple of you guys tweeted me earlier yesterday, and that was a blast. So guys, thank you so much. I say this a lot, and I swear it's not just talking off the tongue here. It means more to me than you guys will ever know. So thank you for hanging out with us here, and segue, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Back to the Barrett Sallee conversation we're talking about here in segments 1 and 2 on Locked On Vols. Tennessee is number 1 in baseball. Won the SEC men's basketball tournament and has more football momentum than every team in the SEC East not named Georgia. I'm old enough to remember when the entire athletics department was a laughingstock. It isn't anymore. That's Barrett Sallee from a couple of weeks ago. All right, so which athletic departments would you maybe trade places with? I know you never trade places. You're all Vol. I get all that. But just think about it. From the health, the top to bottom, the revenue drivers, the football programs, to the non-revenues, like gymnastics is something we're going to talk about a lot right now. Not really, because I have no clue about it. But I broke the rest of the 13 teams in the SEC into tiers. Here are my tiers. We'll start with the no, absolutely no way. The no tier. Okay, that's what I'm going to name it. The no tier. I think the no tier, and this isn't necessarily in any type of order. I just kind of the ones that came to mind. Florida right now. You're in a good spot. You can recruit at Florida. I get all that. But in terms of the health of the athletic, and keep in mind, I'm not talking monetary health here. I don't have those numbers. I didn't want to get into that. I'm just talking about wins, losses, coaching stability, stuff like that, recruiting, all that. Florida, you can always recruit. Sure, you can. Billy Napier's a good coach, but a brand new coach. You're starting over that football program. Mike White just left, starting over that basketball program. Florida, I would say no right now. Good baseball team, I get all that. But I would say no right now. I would. Missouri, not great at football. Looking for a new men's basketball coach. Conzo Martin got fired. And let me tell you, if you've ever been to the University of Missouri, woo! I'm sorry. That place, those facilities are straight trash. Just pathetic. Awful. Everything I heard about Columbia, Missouri was true when I got there this past fall. Granted, I stayed for just the game, a little VIP getting there, a little VIP getting back. It was a quick little day trip for me. I'm not gonna lie. I will never do that again. Little private jet life. It was pretty sweet. Okay, will never ever happen again. So I didn't spend much time there, but everything that I heard about Missouri was true when I was there. 11 a.m. kickoff local time. It was rainy. It was cold. The press box was crappy. The field was crappy. The campus was crappy. All that. Anyway, Missouri, no. Mississippi State. Football's okay. You got a good coach in Mike Leach, but you're not contending for anything, right? Women's hoops is really, really good. Basketball is looking for a new coach. Hallen is out. Softball and baseball's, pretty decent, but overall, I would say no there because you're not gaining much traction in the things that matter. Vandy, again, we're not talking about Vandy. Vandy's no. Vandy's no. The middle tier, okay? South Carolina, all right. So baseball team is maybe better than what we thought. Took 2 or 3 from Vandy last weekend. Football team has very much got some momentum in the transfer portal. I think's got a decent coach in Shane Beamer. We'll see what happens there. Women's basketball team is fantastic. So South Carolina's, it's fine. It's fine right now, but you're not winning anything, right? Except maybe a women's basketball championship. Ole Miss, football's in a good spot. Got a good coach in Lane Kiffin. Baseball is still a good, program. Basketball is not that great with Kermit Davis. He's probably on the hot seat entering year number 2 or next year. I mean, I'm interested to see how Lane Kiffin will do this year with Ole Miss. You're losing Jeff Levy. You're losing DJ Durkin, both your coordinators. You're losing your All-American quarterback in Matt Corral. What can you do, Lane? Transfer portals helped you. But I think Lane Kiffin, he's not on the hot seat, don't get me wrong, but maybe a little pressure coming this year because maybe all the stars aligned last year. We'll have to see. But Ole Miss is in a decent spot. Kentucky, I spoke on this earlier. Great football facility or great football program right now. Very stable, the best it's ever been in Kentucky. Hoops is fantastic, even though it lost to St. Peter's this year, Cinderella, in round number 1. Hoops is in a great spot. Baseball's not great. Softball is pretty good. It's a ranked team. Women's basketball is pretty good. I want to say it was the 4th seed, maybe the 2nd seed in the SEC tournament this year. I can't really remember, but overall, Kentucky's fine. And plus, it got into corporate sponsorships, Kroger Field. That's going to help, right? That's really going to help a place like Kentucky. Louisville did it first with the Yum Center and all that, but Kentucky's in a decent spot right now. Keep in mind, too, all these schools, a lot of them have gymnastics. I think that'd be great for Tennessee to add gymnastics at some point because there's revenue to be made off the table with TV right there. Texas A&M, money, right? Arkansas is very comparable to where Tennessee is right now. Think about it. A lot of momentum with football coach and Sam Pittman. Football is trending in the right direction, right? Men's basketball team, really good. Went to the Elite Eight. Tennessee, of course. Tennessee and Arkansas, one of the best teams in the SEC from this past year. Baseball is pretty solid. Arkansas is very comparable to the University of Tennessee. And then Auburn right now, it's just, you can make it. I don't even know. Auburn, you can make tons and tons and tons of money there, of course. You can win 10 games, and then you can win 9 games and get fired the next year. But I think Auburn overall, I wouldn't want to be a part of it right now because I think there's toxic leadership from the athletic director, from the council, from the chancellor. I wouldn't want any part of that. But overall, that's a good place to be, would be Auburn in the grand scheme of things. And then yes, definitely, I would have to consider thinking about trading places right now. would be Georgia, simply because you just won a national championship, okay? And football is what pays the bills. I think you guys know this, right? But some of you might not know this. The football literally funds the other programs. Okay, we make the analogy of football keeps the lights on. No, football literally keeps the lights on. It funds the athletic department. It truly does. I understand some big time programs don't have a football team. I hear you. I hear you. Gonzaga. I hear you. You some others. But football is what drives the ship. It's a cash cow. Georgia just won a national championship. So Georgia's in this conversation. Alabama, how could it not be? You're winning a national championship every other year, right? Alabama's pretty decently in good shape with Nate Oates in terms of a basketball team. Alabama, it's hard to argue there. And then LSU's an interesting one. Time of transition right now. You got the FBI involved. You fired Will Wade for cause, finally, right? You got rid of Ed Orgeron. There was tons of allegations in Title IX and stuff. We're not going to get into all that, but you got Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly is a good football coach. And LSU, you can recruit and you can win there. So those would be in the yes/maybe column, like the ones you can consider, okay? Tennessee needs to win a national championship. We know this. These programs, by the way, LSU won a national championship 2 years ago with Joe Burrow, right? So these teams, recent national champions, that means money, right? And in position to go and do just that again. LSU's not going to be down for long, I'll tell you that. LSU, it's a gold mine in Louisiana recruiting. You own that state. And Brian Kelly might be the worst human being ever outside of Urban Meyer and Rob Manfred. Jokes. But he is a hell of a football coach. He just is. So I'm not saying that I would trade places with that, but I'm just saying those are the teams that would be in consideration. So when you break it all down, it truly is an interesting conversation. Tennessee athletics is very healthy right now. They're winning, and they're in good spots culture-wise to continue to take the steps in the right direction. And you are competing. You're competing in baseball. You should be competing a lot more in the grand scheme of things in basketball because you're in position to do so. Women's basketball, you're in the Sweet 16, right? Football, we'll see what happens in year number 2. Football drives the ship. So, again, Barrett Sallee's tweet from earlier this week, Barrett Sallee, CBS Sports, sparked all this. Tennessee's number 1 in baseball, won the SEC men's basketball tournament, has more football momentum than every team in the SEC East not named Georgia. I'm old enough to remember when the entire athletic department was a laughingstock. It isn't anymore. It was an entire laughingstock just a little over a calendar year ago today. Look at the turnaround for Tennessee. So, thought that was a very interesting conversation. Wanted to bring it on to the podcast. Of course, there's so much more work to be done. All right, Pro Day. I was there. I'll tell you the little information that I was able to find out and tell you what I saw. That's coming up here to conclude this edition of Locked On Vols. But it's Built Bar, time of the year when summer beach bods are coming up just around the corner, maybe spring break season. We've all been there, PCB. We've all been there, the Tiki Hut. We've all been there, right? Club La Vila. Okay, it's time, right? You need to start to get right. Get rid of some of those candy bars, some of those unhealthy snacks. Get a protein bar. 17 grams of protein. That's what's infused in these Built Bars, plus covered in 100% chocolate. A fantastic alternative to those nasty snacks. So healthy as well. So tasty. You've got all these different flavors like mint chocolate chip, coconut almond, white cookies and cream, mint brownie, all that. So delicious. And the majority of these, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of proteins. The average candy bar, 240 calories. Go to Built.com if this intrigues you and use that promo code LOCK15. You're going to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off. That is at Built.com. Time to tie a bow on this edition of Locked On Vols. I'm Eric Kane, your Thursday edition. We'll come back stronger than ever on Friday. Going to chat with Ben McKee. We'll have our Diamond Vols podcast preview out. If you want to check that out on the Swain Event YouTube channel and the podcast channel, SoundCloud, also on the VolQuest SoundCloud feed and all that. We'll be previewing the Vanderbilt baseball series. That'll come out probably later today. But I'm going to get him on for about 10 minutes or so, chat a little Tennessee Vanderbilt leading into the weekend. Tennessee baseball is thriving, so we're going to end the week strong. So that's kind of what's on the docket for tomorrow. I want to recap what I saw at Pro Day today. So keep in mind, Pro Day is different. I keep hearing it. Yeah, I missed out on the great days of journalism, right? There was a time. I don't know how many of you guys listen to my practice reports on the Sports Animal, read my practice observations on VolQuest.com, just see my tweets. we don't get to see much. We get to see some, which again is more than the common fan, which is cool. But we don't get to see much. What we do get to see is better than nothing, right? But back in the day, you could go and you could watch practice all day long. You could go grab kids when they're walking off the field, saying, "Hey, go get in front of this camera, get in front of my recorder here. Let's talk." I mean, it's free reign, right? You could watch the entire practices, and so there would be stuff you couldn't report on, but like you could see Tennessee working, emphasizing something in the game plan, or maybe a trick play, or something to that nature, and then you see it happen in the game, and you can say, "Oh, okay, I see what happened." We don't get all that. We get to go and see stretches. We get to go and see individual and pretty much the same stuff every day. Again, what we get to see is better than nothing. I get all that. But Pro Day was kind of like that too. I mean, we were all marked off. We couldn't even get in there. We barely got to see anything. The pictures were crappy. The video was crappy that we were given access to try to shoot and all that. So, not great circumstances, but I was there. I didn't hang around for the entire thing. We didn't get to go in the weight room. We didn't get to see them bench or anything like that. We just got to see primarily the field work. But a couple of my thoughts. There were 9 guys that took part in Tennessee's pro day. You had the walk-on Dylan Stiles, a linebacker, but wide receiver Javonte Payton, defensive lineman Matthew Butler, DB Kenneth George Jr., offensive lineman Cade Mays, defensive lineman Jaquan Blakely. I'm about to say Barkley. He hadn't been gone that long. Wide receiver Velus Jones Jr., defensive back Alontae Taylor, and defensive back Theo Jackson. Those guys took part in pro day. So some things that I noticed while I was sitting out there, and I had, of course, my my hand timer, but that's very, very unofficial. Um, I thought Alontae Taylor ran well. I thought Matthew Butler ran really, really well. I don't have. I'll read off some stats I have in just a moment, but I don't have the official stats. Tennessee, none of the scouts, they didn't publish those, but I have a few of them. I did find out a few of them. I'll tell you in just a moment, but looked like Matthew Butler ran really well. Matthew Butler's going to be a player in the National Football League. It might not happen year 1. It might not happen year 3. Sooner or later, he will be a consistent rotational player, if not a starter at the National Football League. That man has improved and worked his tail off. His 40 looked really, really good today. It did. I thought that Velus actually didn't run, excuse me. I thought Theo, he didn't look super fast, but kind of is what it is. I thought Kenneth George Jr. ran really well, but I don't think how much. I don't know. What happens today, if that'll really even affect him. But nonetheless, saw them run a little bit, and we were not able to see the broad jumps or the verticals or the bench press or anything like that. But a couple of notes that I was able to gather. Alontae Taylor had a 39-inch vertical, so that was really, really good. Well, it was, this broad jump was better. He had an 11-1 broad jump, which is really good, especially if you compare it to a lot of the broad jumping numbers from the NFL Combine from those in his position group. 11-1 broad jump, really good for Alontae Taylor. A 39-inch vertical is not bad for sure. Cade Mays, he did 21 reps on the bench press, which is decent. So that was about all I got from somebody that could tell me some of those reps. So I wanted to share those with you guys. We'll see what happens. We kind of previewed it a little bit yesterday. I thought Javonte Payton ran, decently today. He's a guy that I think that potentially, somebody will take a chance on. Somebody could sign as an undrafted free agent. He ain't getting drafted. I don't think Theo Jackson's getting drafted. I wish he would, though. Man, he was so important this year. He was so vital. He played his rear end off, but I don't think he's getting drafted. I don't think that Kenneth George Jr. will not get drafted. Jaquan Blakely will not get drafted. Velus will get drafted. Alontae will get drafted. Cade will get drafted, and Matthew Butler will get drafted. But I think all those guys are mid to late round selections. Something trendy I've been hearing a little lately. Maybe Cody Barnes, the New Orleans Saints, will take a flyer on Velus Jones. That could be interesting. Alontae Taylor, I think, could play safety in the National Football League. I don't think he's fast enough to play corner. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. We'll see. We'll see. But he's versatile enough to give himself a position, get himself in position to make a team and have a role. He'll be a special teams player for sure. We'll see about Cade. We'll see about Cade Mays. Durability is a big issue here. Think about the NFL too, is they can draft you as long as you're not like a first, second, third, fourth rounder. They can draft you. You get hurt in camp, they'll cut you. I mean, it's a brutal business. It's like radio. They don't care about your feelings. All right, they'll cut you. Right. We'll see what happens with Cade. His versatility is up there. I still think he's a very talented player. Played out of position his entire time in Tennessee. So playing the guard spot. We'll see what happens. I'm intrigued with Cade Mays. I really, really am. Alontae Taylor tweeted after the workout. He said, "Man, we had all 32 in that thing today." I'm saying it like I think he would say it. It's probably not good, but why wouldn't you want to come to Tennessee? We pro ready. That was Alontae Taylor from after today's pro day at the University of Tennessee. All 32 teams sent representatives to Tennessee. There was a huge crowd. There was family, friends on hand, media like myself on hand. So it was a nice little event. It was cool. Daniel Batuli, former Vols Daniel Batuli, and Daryl Taylor. Daryl Taylor is freaking huge. Freaking huge. Really good to see him, too, after that scary incident against Pittsburgh. I think it was Sunday night. Maybe it was Monday night. Nonetheless, he looked good. He looked like he gained like 20 pounds of muscle. So those former Vols were in attendance today as well. One more thing, then we'll get out of here. John Robinson, general manager of the Tennessee Titans. Didn't see Mike Vrabel. John Robinson was there today. So Tennessee pulled him aside. He cut a little promo for the Vols. Give this a listen. John Robinson, general manager of the Tennessee Titans, on Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Coach Heupel and his staff here implementing their culture, what he's been able to do here in a short time. You can see the style of football that they want to play. What he asks of his players, it's easy to see on film. And I'm excited to see what he's got for the future as far as for putting players in the NFL.
Cool stuff there. Cool stuff. And Frabes and Robinson are always at Tennessee's pro days because, again, it's just a short drive just from right down the road. So we'll see what else comes out. I'm sure we'll see some leaked information about the 40 times. Velus Jones, Alontae Taylor, Cade Mays. Those guys did not run the 40. Matthew Butler ran the 40 and everybody else. Theo Jackson ran the 40. But those three, Alontae, Velus, and Cade, did not run the 40. So if you're looking for a 40 time for those guys, it's not out there. So nonetheless, we'll see what happens. We'll continue to cover these guys as the NFL draft approaches. Man, it's not that long away, right? We're almost in the month of April. It'll be the end of this month or the end of next month. So looking forward to that. All right, guys, awesome stuff here today. We'll continue on with Locked On Vols on Friday, get you set for the weekend. Now that you have Locked On Vols in the bag here for today, making that your first listen, your first watch on YouTube, first listen every single day. Weekday mornings, whenever you get up, available on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, completely free, by the way. Go check out Locked On NFL Draft. Make that your second listen. Ryan Tracy, speaking of pro day here, Ryan Tracy, former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker. They'll dive into the college prospects, front offices, all that and more. Make Locked On NFL Draft your second listen right after Locked On Vols. Guys, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Have fun. We'll do it again tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody.